Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. Excited to have my good friend and colleague, Marnie Flitch, the technology teacher at STEM School. She's one of our members of we call ourselves the Seesaw Superstars. We have members at each of our buildings, our 5 buildings, including our STEM, RDLS, Centennial, Sheridan, and Central. We are using Seesaw for early childhood through 5th grade. And it's an interesting story. I'll give you a little background for tonight's presentation. There are about 3 parts. The first one, I'm going to give you a little history of why we use Seesaw. I'm going to show you some of the technical pieces of how you or your child or children access Seesaw. Make sure that you know how to help them get into their Seesaw class. We're going to show some of the tools that are available to them within Seesaw, and then have some time for questions and answers. We've put together several resources, as Jennifer said. Sometimes when you're on a webinar, it goes too fast, and you'll be able to go back and click on those links. Seesaw has wonderful videos, professional development. If you're familiar with YouTube, if you go to their YouTube channel, Seesaw, you can find pretty much everything you're looking for. Just a little caveat at the beginning. This is I'm just past 1 year in this new role. I was a math teacher at RMS for 9 years. After that, I worked at Richfield Dual Language School as a math intervention teacher. And who knew in my first year as the digital learning coach, we would have a global pandemic and we would need to do online learning and distance learning. So we had a plan in place during the beginning of last year to look at some tools like Seesaw and do kind of a slow rollout at a couple sites and become, very technically proficient within certain users and have the ability to train our staff and families. And that really got pushed very quickly forward, and we all had to jump in, which was last spring. We were very happy with most of the aspects of Seesaw, and we decided to pay for the paid Seesaw for Schools edition, which gives us other features and also lets us roster our children, but it's quite a learning process. I'm sure many people on this call have had some challenges getting into Seesaw. We understand that. I've been on calls from 7 a.m. till emails till 10 p.m. about families that are struggling because they really want to get their kids connected. And we're all working together to make that happen. And we appreciate your patience and actually look to you to support one another. If you know other families that are struggling and you learn from this video, if you could reach out and share, that would be great. Another first this year is, this is my first time doing a live webinar to families and using the platform GoToWebinar. So if we have some technical issues, I made a recording ahead of time that can be shared. If you're in this, we have your email and can share that with you. And Jennifer has been gracious enough to work late and kind of help Marnie and I be able to facilitate this tonight. So without further ado, I think I'll jump into the slides. These were built by Seesaw. And as I said, the first part is kind of the why. Seesaw is a great tool for creation for students. It's a good tool to connect to families. It was not designed for distance learning, but we've found that it does work well for that. But it's also a great tool when kids are in school, for them to be able to show what they're understanding and explain it with the various tools. And you'll see more of that in the presentation. So what is family engagement? Family engagement is two-way communication between schools and families, creating a culture of shared responsibility between educators and the families, when schools and families work together to support the whole child. One of the most accurate predictors of student success is the extent to which families are involved in their child's learning and support it at home. Obviously, there's some barriers that kind of get in the way of that family engagement. Some of the examples Seesaw has put together are obviously childcare needs. I know that's been a struggle for many families. I can't complain too much. I have 2 7th graders that attend Richfield Middle School, and I can only imagine if they were in the early elementaries, how it's difficult to manage your job or your other responsibilities when your children are also having needs. Engagement can be difficult due to transportation. So in the past, maybe you couldn't visit with your teacher if you had questions, but now with Seesaw, we're able to kind of overcome some of those obstacles. You can correspond with them on a daily basis and see what students are doing in the class. Family engagement can be difficult because of language or cultural differences. One of the great enhancements in Seesaw is the ability to receive messages, perhaps in English from a teacher, and then the family can translate it into their home language. Family engagement can be difficult due to work schedules. In the past, if you had to try to schedule your meeting with a teacher, or you were trying to make a phone call, with the tools in Seesaw Family, you're able to see what your child is doing and also be able to interact with a teacher who can also send you resources and examples of what's happening in class and video. Obviously, family engagement can be difficult due to teacher fears, either teacher fears that you might have had as a student or with your child as well. And on top of all that, of course, we have a global pandemic. So obviously, everyone's doing their best to learn these new tools, but please have some patience with teachers who, although they might have had some time during workshop week, we gave webinars and presentations and supplied resources. Some of our buildings are in the midst of a remodel. Some of our teachers are new to teaching, so we appreciate your patience and help. Seesaw supports teachers and families to overcome barriers and leverage families' unique assets to form partnerships around student learning. So we're working together as a team to make sure your student can learn as much as they can. In Richfield, we have a mission, and some of you might have been part of developing that, but we really look at it as for all of our community members to learn, grow, and excel. So tonight, you're the learner learning about Seesaw. We're hoping that through learning, you can help your child at home excel. So in this, you're gonna see this is kind of a Seesaw 101, and you can dive a little deeper in some of the resources that will be shared after. Seesaw creates a powerful learning loop that brings together students, teachers, and families to deepen student learning. Here's a video. It's only 3 minutes, and obviously you could watch this at home too. I'm just gonna show this one video, and then we'll move into how people are able to get into Seesaw. I think many people are anxious to see that. And there we go.
Welcome to Seesaw.
And thank you for your patience. Apparently I cannot make that large.
Welcome to Seesaw. Seesaw is a portfolio that your student will use to showcase what they're learning and doing at school and share that with you, their family. They'll add photos, videos, drawings, voice recordings, notes, and much more to their learning journal. And you'll be able to see their amazing work right on your phone or computer whenever they post something new. Students love Seesaw because they're able to show what they know with lots of different tools and share their work with meaningful audiences, all while practicing those super important 21st century skills. Teachers love Seesaw because they're able to gain insights from all of their students, see student growth, and have all that classwork organized in one place. Parents love Seesaw because they can be closer to the classroom without being there every day and really understand how their student is doing. Teachers and parents are always in control of how student information is shared. Once you've connected to your child's account using the special invite code or link from your child's teacher, you can view all of their posted work. You'll only see your own child's work and messages that your teacher sends home. When something new is added, you'll get a notification. You can decide if you want notifications via email, push, or text message. Notifications can come each time something new is added or just once a day. You choose the settings you prefer. Once you follow the Seesaw notification, you can see what's going on in the classroom in real time. Teachers can also turn on options for you to like and comment on your child's work to encourage their learning. Remember, the best comments help us learn something new. Things like, wow, you did a great job because, have you considered? Interesting.
Okay. I accidentally clicked on that early. Appreciate your patience with my navigation. we're going to jump into the second part, but obviously that video is going to be shared later. I had a chat little bubble pop up, and when I clicked on it, a few other things popped up on my screen. So how do we connect to Seesaw? I think this might be the most confusing thing that we can clarify tonight. So obviously many students have Chromebooks at home, and we have our students connect through a Chromebook. It is possible to connect through a phone or a tablet, but the best experience, if possible, is through a Chromebook. That's because it's kind of designed with, we have it integrated with Google, and also the way the lessons are pushed out, just the size of the screen and the interactive tools work better than trying to do that on a cell phone or on a tablet, although it is possible on an iPad. The sign-in might be more difficult because the way that we have our school Chromebooks configured, after your first sign-in, it's really only a couple clicks to get in. So when students and families or anyone else goes to the website for Seesaw, when I move my cursor, it gets blocked there, but it's app.seesaw.me. If you were to type that into Google, you're going to see the screen that has the Seesaw image, and you can sign in as a teacher, a student, or a family member. This is where family members would sign in to set up their account. If they don't want to do it on their phone or somewhere else, you can do it that way. Students, either at school or at home, are going to sign in here where it says, I'm a student. These ones are, like I said, for if you're using a different device. Once teachers' accounts are set up, and at different schools, they've had access to the technology at different times and training at different times. So don't be alarmed if you haven't received an invite from your teacher yet, but they will be coming to join their class. And that doesn't mean you're part of the student experience in the class, but to join your child's class so you can see posts that you can communicate to the teacher. And the way that you're going to get that invitation is if your teacher, your child's teacher has a phone number for you, which they might have, and make sure those are updated at your school. You can check with your school secretary to make sure they have your latest information for your cell phone, or email. They can send those invites to you those two ways. So you'll accept those. In the family app, families only see their own child's posts or a post that their child is tagged into. You cannot, as a family, if you're in the family sign-on, you can't complete the activities. So even though you have a sign-on, you can't finish your child's work within the family app. That's just to see what they did and also to communicate with teachers. This is an example of an assignment that a teacher might send out to your child, and it gives them very detailed directions about the steps that they are doing. You don't have to understand all of that right away. Teachers will be going through these things over the next several weeks. I know in the first couple weeks of school, more so than learning all the technical aspects or learning about the different content areas, there's a lot of community building activities going right now, and then there will also be some experience learning about Seesaw. Students post in the class, it's called the class app here, but it's in that class sign-in. So once that assignment is made, here's a short video that shows how a child interacted with the lesson that was sent to them. And sometimes the clicks go to the next page.
That dog and none are the same amount, and the least is the mouse because a lot of people don't like mouses. And the hamster, the guinea pig, and the turtle are all two that are the same amount. And I noticed that only the fish has 3. None else has 3.
So I think one of the really exciting parts about that as a parent is if your kid came home with this worksheet and they would just show it to you, and they might have time to talk to you or explain it to you. But as the kid's doing the assignment, they're explaining their thinking and they're creating, and it gives them kind of more of a chance to get that solidified. And then you can see it real time when the teacher approves the assignment and sends it to you. You kind of have that in the family area. I don't know if it's technically called in the family journal, and those can follow the student from year to year. So you can keep kind of some favorite ones that your child has done in the past and kind of see as they've progressed throughout the years. All right, this looks like a screenshot of the family app, and you can see at the bottom, this is where there's ability to comment, or this parent wrote, "What a creative comparison, Kareem. Let's do this at home this weekend." And then the student can see that in class and see that, oh my gosh, my family member is watching what I'm doing, and they'll be more engaged. Some of the things that Seesaw says, which I agree with, are don't just write, "Great job." It's nice to ask another question or explain specifically what you liked about the work that they did. You can see at the top of this page some of the tabs, so your home tab, the journals, and your inbox, where you might have those messages from teachers. All right, a teacher could send information to you explaining about what's happening, including videos in the class. In this one, it looks like they're studying inertia. And then you can see how the teacher down here responded about how the student really loved the lesson today. And well, this one might be from the parent, but back and forth between there. This is the part that I discussed earlier about the translation. So this teacher wrote to the family member, and they might have written it in English, and then the family member can translate that to their preferred language. So in summary, not for the end of the presentation, but for this part about why we have Seesaw and kind of the basics about how it works, not the technical part about signing in. I wanted you to make sure you understand this is for connecting families on Seesaw, makes them the powerful part of the learning process, allowing them to reinforce and support learning at home. Teachers and families can be in constant positive two-way communication, and students love when they get comments from their family members. So this is part 2. How do we get the kids into Seesaw? And I've been answering emails and phone calls for the last several days on this. And so if you've struggled, I feel your pain, and we're going to get through this. A message has been sent to teachers to know that this first week is community building, and if you are not successful getting that content in the first several days, that is your son or your child will not be punished for that or anything else. We will make sure we work with teachers so that you can get the information. So how do they get in? When a student goes to their Chromebook, the very first thing when they turn it on, they have to make sure they have a Wi-Fi signal. So in the bottom right-hand corner, there's going to be a time, there's going to be a small cone image, and you have to make sure that you're connected to Wi-Fi. If you're struggling to connect to Wi-Fi, you can reach out to either your internet provider, or you could reach out to our technical support. At the beginning of the year, of course, we're super busy, so that number is 798-6050. We'll put that in the email also. Once you're connected to Wi-Fi, your child will sign in. And when they sign in, they either at the younger grades have a QR code that might come home as a piece of paper, but every student has a unique username and password. So even if you don't have that QR code, you can still help your child get in. And the way to do that, the directions are on this side here. The username is the first 3 letters of the child's first name, followed by the first 3 letters of their last name, 2-digit birth month, 2-digit birth year. So for an example, my daughter, it could be MAD for the first 3 of Madeline, FRI, and then for the first 3 of Friel, then she would have 09 because she was born in September, and let's say she was born in 2011, it would have an 11. On this page, the portal page, you do not put the email ending at rpsmn.org. If you do that, this will get stuck. So you only do that where it says enter Gmail. This is very technical, and these are things that we typically do in class with students. The password for every student in Richfield starts with lowercase rps. After the lowercase RPS is the 6-digit student ID number. Your teacher has those. So if you don't know your 6-digit student ID number, you can reach out to your child's teacher. This is called the portal. So once you get in here, this is where we have the apps, and they change based on the student's age. So for example, my middle school kids don't have the Seesaw app on the portal, they have Schoology. But you'll see the image when you sign in with your child to Seesaw. After the first time, as soon as you click that image, you're going to get into the class, and it goes nice and smoothly. However, the very first time you sign into the Chromebook and the very first time you connect through the portal, there are a couple extra steps. And the most common error is on this next page. This page offers families 3 different ways, actually 4 different ways to sign in at least. The only one you need is this top click. It's not a header, you just click sign in with Google. Do not put in an email or anything else, that will not work. Do not click this link. Do not put in a code. We don't have codes. Those we had in the spring, we had a different sign-on method, and you do not need a QR code to scan. You just click sign in with Google. One extra time, this one time that you connected, you're going to have to put in that student email address one more time. So that's the first 3 of the first 3 of the last, birth month, birth year at rpsmn.org. We will send a handout too that has screenshots for this. On the next page, they'll put in their password, and then they will get into Seesaw. This is the third part of the presentation. What do they do in Seesaw? So we're going to show you a few of the tools that are within there, and you can ask more questions at the end of this. So these are examples of student work. Some of the tools you'll see is they can take photos of what they're working on. They can put images together and then comment on them, and then they can voice record what they're doing. The photo tool allows them to capture physical things that they do in class. And like I said, they can add their voice or a caption. Thank you, Miss Flitch, Marnie, for demonstrating with a student how to hold a piece of paper, how to hold your artwork so that your teacher can see you and your marvelous work. Or have another person in your family or a friend hold the camera for you. We advise students to do that. The video tool allows them to create a short video to capture their learning. There's a drawing tool that students love, and they can kind of change the thickness of the pens and the type of drawing tools. I would ask, and I think Marnie would agree with me, is kids love those decorative pens that might have like sparkles, but maybe give a kind reminder that older eyes have a little bit hard time reading the sparkle magic crayon. So maybe use that as a border color. The upload tool, we are a Google school. We have, as students progress through, we use all the Google apps for education, including Google Docs. We use Google slide presentations. I know my daughter starting in 4th grade has loved using those. They can upload any of those and photos into their work. And if handwriting is more difficult, there's a note tool where they can type. Teachers can put in links to different websites within the activities for students to connect to also. So how can you learn more? Like I said before, if you go to Seesaw, you don't have to copy this exact address. If you just go to Google and you type in Seesaw Remote Learning for Families, or if you go to Seesaw and you type in Family Resources, they have some great resources. And I think we're ready for your questions. Part I have to make sure is that I'll be able to see them in the chat now, and I'm going to exit the presentation. Oh, I think I did it. Yay, first time for everything. All right.
All right, Ken, thank you. We have 3 questions so far, but for anyone still in here who has questions, it's not too late, so go ahead and type them in. The first question was asked by Jody. Do the student Chromebooks have touch screens?
Very good question. Marnie, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Our younger students, kindergarten and 1st grade, have the touch screens this year. Last year, some of our 2nd graders also had access to touch screen, but this year we really wanted to prioritize that for our youngest users as they're getting started and learning the technology. The older students may have used a touch screen in the past, but should have received a non-touch or regular Chromebook. We have different models, so it might look a little different than maybe a sibling in an older grade, but the younger kids have the touches, and the older second, third, fourth, and fifth have the regular style Chromebook.
And I'll just add another piece to that, is that ideally it would be great to have every kid have the touch screens. I think we've found success with those, but with the pandemic, we didn't have in all the buildings a one-to-one situation. So we had to put our resources together to make sure every kid had a device. And in doing that, we kind of prioritize those early learners with those that maybe are not quite as capable of doing that writing, or I should say typing or using a mouse.
Great. Our next question is from Jesse, and I think this was when we were looking at the parent view of this. Can you download visual and audio files?
I don't have an answer to that. Do you, Marnie? We might have to look into that one.
Download them, or you mean getting them from the school, or do you mean sending them back to us?
I will let Jessie come back with the response when she has a chance.
Sure.
My interpretation based on when she typed this in was we were looking at some of this work students posted, and is there a way that maybe she could download that and save it on her own hard drive? That was how I interpreted it at the time in the context.
I do believe there's a way to export the student journal.
Yes. I'll make note of that, and as we get a little further in the next few weeks, we can get that information out once we have everybody signed up and the kids actively using the program. You can download the journal, yes.
We're going to add that to our Seesaw for Parents course 201 for advanced learners.
Excellent. Another one from Jesse. Will pre-kindergarten 3-year-olds have the portal login as well?
That's our goal. I was on phone calls about that today too. We're learning a lot about how all these systems interact, and I probably should not make a promise, but that would be the best situation, is if they could sign in with a username and password through the portal in our current pandemic situation. I don't think that's necessarily a long-term situation, because with that young of a user, it would be better to use those QR codes. I think if you check with your early childhood classroom teacher, they might not have an answer today, but they should have an answer within the next week.
And I know that I have seen for my own building at STEM, there have been QRs created for those younger students.
Great, thank you. A question from Shelley. Should I do anything with my Seesaw Family classes from the 2019-2020 school year?
Do you want me to answer this? I would say, because my boss, Mr. Kling, Corey Kling, Director of Technology, his daughter has Seesaw where she goes to school. And if you are nostalgic and you want to save those and see I'm Marnie, you might correct me on this. If it's in their journal, do they need to save those old classes? We might have to investigate that too.
Yeah, I know that the teacher that the student had last year has archived that work, but it's still there. It hasn't gone away. So yes, let's look into that a little deeper, Ken.
I guess it might also depend on how many children you have, because if you have 3 or 4 different kids and then they're in over the years and these Seesaw classes build, and if you don't kind of archive or hide those, it will maybe overwhelm you.
Okay, great. A question from Emily. If you accidentally submit a child's work, even though it's not done, is there any way to get it returned to edit other than having the teacher resend it?
I believe that the teacher does need to resend. Is that correct, Ken?
That's what I think has to happen too.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you send them a message, the teacher should be willing to do that if it happened by accident.
You might double check your edit button, which is actually 3 dots, if there's an option to add on to it, but I think the teacher does need to send it back so that the child then can edit. Another one
Great.
for our list.
A question for Nikki. Any plan for pre-K to get devices?
Yes, I think pre-Ks are supposed to have devices. So if they don't have devices, I'm sure that I was on a call today and the comment was, we think the devices are on a ship somewhere that's coming from, from the West, and everyone is short on devices, but our goal is that all pre-K kids have a device. Could you reach out to your pre-K teacher if you maybe you already have, and they can reach out to me and send a message to say that they don't have devices yet, because I know that's on our list.
Great. Message from Jody, a question. I received an email from my son's class meeting tomorrow, but can the teachers send the invites or links to the students' email so that they can easily access on their device?
So to clarify, can you, I mean, the teacher could send it to the email. This sounds like this student might be maybe a 3rd, 4th, or 5th grader and is proficient with using the Gmail. But if they put that link within Seesaw, it should work. But let's say, for example, you're having an issue with Seesaw and we're talking about a Google Meet link, you could ask the teacher to send that link via email and they should be able to join through there. I don't know if that answered the question.
Well, I'm sure she'll let us know if it didn't. Okay. Okay, a question from Heather. Our daughter's teacher sent home a QR code for login. However, when I tried to use it via my computer or my phone, it wouldn't work. I heard you mention something about a QR code, but was distracted by my kids with the details of what you said. Can you please repeat that information about QR codes?
Yes. The QR code, there's a QR code that helps students log into their Chromebook on that portal, that red portal page, that they hold up that QR code and they get into the portal. We do not have a QR code for Seesaw. Marnie, can you confirm my statement or add or clarify?
I'm thinking back to last year. I have not tried yet in the last couple of days, but I think on the family invites, Ken, isn't there a QR? I think there is a QR code on that page.
If a teacher chose to print that and send it home with the child for Seesaw?
Yes.
Okay. My understanding was that teachers were going to send either via text or email, but it is possible that the teacher didn't, was just trying the best to connect to families and had that sent. Could that parent confirm if that QR code says Seesaw or anything on there, or if it's to sign into their Chromebook?
Don't know. I'll let you know if we get more information here.
Okay.
Question from Emily. Her son is in special ed and 2nd grade and didn't receive a touchscreen because he's in 2nd grade. But he has motor planning issues and would like to swap it out for a touchscreen. So she did. And they somehow found one for us, which was really appreciated. So I guess that's more of a shout out than a question.
Oh, great.
I think that got answered. Just trying to scroll here, make sure I got everything. Someone came in late, Kate came in a little late and apologized, but wanted to know, do students and parents have different logins?
Yes. The students log in through their Chromebook and they will sign in. As they sign into their Chromebook, it will bring them to what we call the student portal page. And on that page, they'll sign in and click the Seesaw app, and that will bring them into the Seesaw class area. As a parent, you have what's called Seesaw Family. Students can't submit work through there. It's a way for you to see what they've accomplished or to communicate with the teacher. Marnie, clarify anything on that I didn't say.
That's exactly right.
There's a little conversation in here, it looks like, with the can you resubmit a child's work? And someone said there is a place where you can respond again and you can edit it there. So just a heads up.
That sounds like
Lots of compliments here, people thanking you for the webinar. Christina would like to know when to expect an email from the teacher with access to Family Seesaw.
So for the future comments going forward, it would be helpful to have like either grade or school building. Like I said, some of the buildings are under construction. They might not have had the time or the resources to get these family letters out as quickly, or maybe it's that teacher's first year with Seesaw and other people were using it last year and they already have the family letters out. So I think it's kind of a site-by-site decision. We have given the green light, the teachers can send out that invitation. But I wouldn't hesitate to write an email to the teacher and ask, are you planning on sending out that invite soon? Marnie, how do you feel?
Yeah, I would say, by the end of the week, we'll have more of those things out to families. And if you haven't seen anything, maybe by Friday, we can start reaching back out to the teachers. I know that I have a lot of info myself to hand out to teachers in my building. And we're just adding a little bit each day so as not to overwhelm everyone with all these different messages about Seesaw. But I would say by the end of the week is a nice goal. Early next week.
That's correct. And we had some concerns when we sent out both the parent sign-in information and the student sign-in information that people got confused between the two. So we wanted to make sure all the kids were in Seesaw for students and then later invite the families, that we weren't sending them out at the same time.
More of a tech question here from Daniel. Their student's Chromebook fell and broke at the corner. They reached out to IT and the teacher, and they know that they're short on Chromebooks right now. It still works, but should be replaced or looked at. What do you recommend that they do?
So if it still works, I would use it for now. I know that we have many on order, and I would give, if it's still working and functioning, and they reached out to the teacher can either put in a help desk ticket or the family can. And then I would give it a couple weeks for us to get the new orders coming in and make sure that everyone's functioning before that would be replaced. I'm a teacher that works with the tech department, so I don't have necessarily all the answers to the protocols for how quickly a device would be replaced. And because we had to go from a situation where in the elementary, some classes were 2-to-1, and we pushed all of our devices out, we don't have so many loaners on hand. And so it might take some time.
Jenner says, my second grader, our DLS does not have a Chromebook yet. So is that part of the same kind of back order?
I know that I had an email conversation today that we were understanding that there were some people at RDLS, some students that didn't have that, and it's at the top of the list to make sure that those students get one as soon as possible.
Yeah, all of the buildings are taking inventories and closely looking at how many families are left to receive their device, and the office staff are reaching out to get everybody that device as quick as they can.
And I don't know, this is just kind of a guess, but as the devices went out in the spring and then we collected them back, if we didn't get every single device back and there was a shortage, so we have to encourage families to make sure at the end of the year and work as a team with all the teachers to get all of those devices back. And that's not as easy when you can't have kids going into their classrooms. So there's some things that were a little bit out of our control.
Okay, question from Kate, and just a heads up, we've got about 4 minutes left here, and we do need to end on time because we get to do this again at 7 in Spanish. So if we don't get to your question, please know that we will still respond to you. GoToWebinar will give us all of the questions and your email addresses that you registered with, so we can follow up with you. Kate wanted to know, do we just download the Seesaw app, or as parents, how do we get in?
So you have a couple choices. If you have a Chromebook or if you have a computer, you can go to the address for, Marnie, correct me, is it app.seesaw.me? I believe I said that right. And there's 3 login buttons. One is for teacher, one is for student, one is for family. So you can, I think that's the easiest way to do it, to set up your family account, is on a PC or a laptop or a Chromebook. If that's not an option, you will get a text from your teacher saying, your child's teacher saying that you've been invited to the class, and then you accept that. You download the app on Android or on an iPhone through the stores, and then you can set up your account and you'll be able to connect with your teacher that way or through an iPad. Did I miss something, Marnie?
Sounds good. Got it.
I have, I think, 1 or 2 more questions here from Leonardo. They have a 3rd grader who's in special ed and wants to know if they can access and do this through an iPad instead of the Chromebook.
Yes, you can. I think the part that I need to learn maybe more about is the sign-in for that. I think the best method, and we might have to work together on this, is to go to, on an iPad, I think, if you have Chrome, well, we want to be able to get the kid to sign in through the portal. Marnie, do you have experience with this too?
I have not worked with it on iPad.
I know that it works on an iPad and it works well. It's just the sign in.
The sign-in part.
Could you send an email to that teacher and have them reach out to me? We might have to do some troubleshooting and practice to try to figure that out. I was thinking that there might be a way the teacher can print out a different code that will allow them, but some of those codes have like an hour window that you have to enter that code within that hour to connect to the class, so that we keep those classes secure and safe. So we might actually have to coordinate a time to get that set up and do the timing at the exact time to put that code in for that device.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we are going to wrap up tonight's presentation. As I mentioned in the beginning, we will share all of this tomorrow in an email by the end of the day. So you have a link to the entire webinar in case you missed some at the beginning. We will also reach out to people who had questions that we were not able to answer to make sure that you get the answers that you need. And all of this information will be posted on our website. So if you go to the Richfield Public Schools district page, not the school page, but the district page, under academics, there is a section for online learning. There's basic information there with some links to Seesaw and some general information, but we're going to be adding to that over the next couple of days, and that's also where we will post this video. So just some follow-up information for you there. Hope everyone has an excellent evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.